morning and welcome back to The Marketing Thread. I am your host, Todd Schnick, joined by my friend and colleague, Mandy Holm. Good morning, Mandy. Good to see you.
Morning, Todd. It's been a while.
It has been a while. I'm glad to connect. I'm having so much fun with this show. It's good to have you join me on it. Gosh, though, for those tuning in for the first time, though, remind them what The Marketing Thread is all about.
Yeah, so The Marketing Thread is a series of short, snackable videos released monthly discussing current marketing trends. The goal is to provide ideas that can easily be added into marketing plans to increase effectiveness. This collection of easily digestible marketing videos addresses subjects such as social media best practices, generation-based marketing, media relations, and blogging, among other helpful marketing tips designed to promote successful marketing strategies.
Outstanding. Well, speaking of best practices and marketing tips, today's conversation is right up that alley. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to learn a lot from this one. As a man, I'm generally pretty bad at this kind of stuff that we're going to talk about today. So graphic design and hacks using a great tool called Canva. So go into what we're going to dive into today.
So today we're going to cover graphic design tips and Canva hacks for beginners. Canva is a free online platform, for those of you that don't know, that enables you to create content quickly and easily, even if you have little to no graphic design skills. I do not claim to be a professional graphic designer, but this platform is an impressive resource and even includes templates and photos for users to use, many of which are available in the free version.
So free. I mean, I've heard of Canva and I've heard it's a good tool. I've never used it.
Yeah.
I know you guys are big advocates for it, but I didn't realize it was free. So
we do have a paid account. Yeah.
Wow.
So there are some free things that we prefer in the paid version. It really just gives you more access to the free stock photos. Free.
Right.
But otherwise, for the most part, it is a free platform, and everything I'm going to talk about today is available in the free version.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that. I'm going to have to pay a little more attention to Canva. So good stuff. All right. Well, kick us off.
So we've pinpointed the top 10 graphic design tips from Canva that will attract your targeted prospects. And isn't that what marketing is all about? All right. So tip number 1, for font's sake, limit your typefaces. When selecting a typeface for headings, subtitles, and body text, use easy to read fonts for simple yet effective graphic design. More is not always most effective. The eye finds it hard to scan multiple typefaces, so stick to one simple collection of fonts. For example, this design uses variants from the, I never say it right, Alaron font family, a geometric sans serif typeface that has a simple yet modern aesthetic.
See, I love how that looks. It looks contemporary. It's easy to read. I'm an old man, so I have old eyes, but it's easy to read. I'm amazed, Mandy, how many people choose a font and however they're leveraging it, that's almost impossible to read, especially when you're looking at it on a phone.
It blows my mind. Sometimes the ones I see, I'm like, how did you land on that one? You thought in the world of fonts that was the best choice. So there's probably more examples of what not to do when it comes to selecting fonts, but whether you're looking for inspiration or completely unsure which fonts work well together, because again, not a graphic designer, Canva provides a variety of font combinations to make it easy to create balanced groupings. So obviously, you might not be looking to use these examples in the way that Canva has displayed them, but the font combinations at the very least do work, and you can tweak them to say whatever you want, but those fonts go well together.
But okay, so that's really important for me because I heard you said you use the same font family. Well, I don't know what the families are. I don't know how to do that, and I didn't realize that Canva, as you're showing here on this slide, does that for you, which is really, really great.
Yes, I pull a lot from this because I don't always know. Sometimes, I know what looks good, but I can't always create it just on my own.
Right.
So this is just a snippet. There are tons of variants and combinations you can scroll through in Canva, and these are all available in the free version. So
outstanding.
And speaking of families, A good rule of thumb when it comes to fonts is that you can create visual uniformity by utilizing just one typeface or font family. So use one that has a selection of variants, such as italic, bold, and condensed to keep options open. For example, this image combines Libra Baskerville, bold, light, and italic. These are all the same font. They're just different versions of it.
That's amazing. See, I wouldn't have guessed those are in the same family, but looking at it, knowing that, I can see that now, and it does work. It looks good. It looks professional.
Yeah,
that's kind of what we're trying to do here, right? Is it look professional?
Exactly.
So, like your nephew did it for you, you know. I mean,
right.
That's the power of keeping it in the family. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, and so from there, you notice we've been changing the scale and the size of the different fonts. So tip number 3 is don't be scared of scale. Apply it to copy, shapes, or compositional features that need proportionate emphasis. Use appropriate colors to enhance this technique while making sure to use suitable typefaces that look good when increased in size. Here, Railway for the word scale is strong and bold with clear forms. So again, these are the same font. They're just bolded and larger. You can see them in different ways.
You know, you see that every day in various marketing approaches, whether it's an ad in a news magazine or on Facebook, whatever, and you don't appreciate it until you realize the reason it was impactful is because of utilization of scale. So I never thought of doing it that way or making the conscious decision about scale, and seeing this and hearing about it makes all kind of sense of how powerful it can be when you do it right.
Yeah, unless you're aware of it, you really don't notice it. And that's the beauty of marketing.
That's the beauty.
Good marketing.
Yeah. Yep.
Which brings me to tip number 4. Letter spacing can help fill dead space. If you have a font that's probably more spread out, you can align text or condense words that take up too much space. So on the flip side of that, you need to be careful to not reduce letter spacing so much so that it can't be read, or increase it so much so that the letters become detached from one another. Here, the decreased letter spacing on the word respect gives a condensed effect as a visual representation of space or lack thereof.
Yeah, and doesn't Canvas do this for you?
Yes. That brings me to my next tip example. You can play with any of these fonts. Of course, this example was a font combination. I just left it as is, and you can adjust the letter and the line height and choose whether you want it to be centered within your text box or go from top to bottom. Super easy.
Again, I didn't realize that Canva did this for you. So, it's one thing to tell me what to do, but if you make me have to figure out how to do it, I don't know. But I didn't realize Canva did that. That's powerful.
Yeah, that was probably one of the tools that we didn't really utilize at the beginning because we didn't realize. So
right.
You can't use what you don't know.
That's true.
And then that brings me to tip number 5. White space is not your enemy. And this is a phrase that not only serves as the title of one of my favorite graphic design books from back in my college days when I did take one graphic design class, but it also serves true in visual communications. Do not be afraid to leave pockets of negative space. It will ultimately bring balance to your composition and defines the areas of positive space. It also creates a fluid design by surrounding words with white space to let elements breathe. There's nothing worse than a super busy graphic. You don't know where to look or what the focus is or what the point is. And
seems to me that a lot of people doing design think, I have all this space, I got to fill it. Design elements and colors and pictures and copy, and you don't necessarily have to do that. And I think some people are afraid of, well, I'm paying for all that space, I better fill it up.
Yeah, and I get that thought process, but if your reader is too distracted by everything going on, then it defeats the point. So
is there a methodology to think about when it comes to how you use white space?
Yes. So my favorite thought process to follow is the Z pattern. This design traces the route that the human eye naturally travels when they read, left to right, top to bottom. And the Z layout helps to create a visual hierarchy that people are more likely to follow. So that top horizontal line should include the main components you want viewers to focus on first. The diagonal should feature any bits of info to build up your call to action. And then that bottom horizontal line should highlight the call to action at some point along that pattern. And obviously, this isn't a foolproof thought process, but if you're putting a lot of elements on one graphic, this is my go-to.
Yeah, no, it makes all kinds of sense.
That was probably one of my favorite tips I learned in school. And then that being said, inspiration can be found anywhere. And they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and trying to recreate a design you love is one of the most effective ways to learn, in my experience.
Well, they say great artists steal.
And of course, we don't want to completely copy somebody else, but if you need inspiration, that's exactly what it is.
Right. Well, there's nothing new under the sun, right? I mean, everything's been done before, and a good designer will take the elements that they like or appreciate or know that their audience will react to and leverage those and use them as inspiration. So you can't be afraid to do that. I mean, my wife and I are working with an interior designer right now. What's the first instruction we got? Go to set up a Pinterest page and load it up with stuff that you like, that inspires you, that is because they're trying to get some sense of what moves you. And so it's no different here. Look for ideas and things that provide inspiration and kind of build on that. Put your own spin on it.
Exactly. Pinterest is one of my top sources for inspiration, of course. And even just a simple Google search. If you are not sure where to start, look at the images on Google and at least get a starting point there. And then also Canva, again, a great resource. If you select that you want to create an Instagram post, or you select you want to do a story, animated social media, any of these recommended images come with pre-built templates. So they'll give you the layout and you just change the words, you change the pictures, but at least you have a baseline to start with, right? That is going to be aesthetically pleasing at the end. And
do they do something where if I'm doing something on Instagram, they'll give me images that are sized for Instagram?
Yes.
Oh.
This is just an example of Instagram templates. I mean, for every design option, there's a different layout. Obviously, stories are vertically oriented and they're a skinny version, whereas Instagram is a square. And Facebook, they're all different sizes, preferred image size, optimized for that platform. And so these templates are made for those sizes.
I'll be honest with you, Mandy, when I'm on Instagram stories and someone makes me have to turn my phone to view I don't want to do it.
Nope.
I swipe and move on to the next story. I don't want to reorient my phone. It's silly, but I don't.
Yeah, I agree. So build it the way it's meant to be viewed, and you don't run into that problem either. And Canva, again, it's just a great place to start. Makes it super easy.
Yeah, no, that's
especially
awesome.
For someone that prefers
like
Canva to Photoshop. So.
Right.
And then once you've put that together, obviously you're going to use the template as your starting point, but you might change the picture out. You might change the font color. You might want it to be branded in your brand colors. Be aware of contrast because that is key. And that's tip number 7. That is one of the most imperative parts of design for mood, readability, and to make it stand out. So you want to use a contrasting color palette in backgrounds, fonts, and graphics. Use filters to add transparency, which is also easy to do in Canva, to enhance the positive negative space in an image, and apply black or white copy to create optimal contrast. So a good rule to follow is if you have a light colored image, then you should use a dark typeface and vice versa. I know that probably seems common sense, but.
Yeah, but a guy like me doesn't think about those kinds of things, so.
You'd be surprised.
And again, we were talking earlier about the scale tip. And when an ad moves you and it works and it communicates something to you and it generates an action, it's probably because it's following these design tips and it's which is why it works. And it's why these tips are being shared because they impact the success or failure of how this messaging communicates to you. So exactly. Yeah, it's stuff I never think about, but it's critical. And then,
You know
again,
it works. Once
it's
it's brought
amazing
to
that
your
Canva
attention.
does a lot of this for you.
Yeah.
And it'll guide you. It's fascinating.
And obviously black and white is the easiest contrast of them all, but you can be clever with your colors. Obviously, marketing doesn't stick to just black and white.
Right.
But colors create visual harmony within a graphic. So by choosing a warm, cool, or monochromatic color combination, you create a tonal foundation for your design. I know that's a lot of words thrown at you at once, but the best rule to follow is choose a color scheme that has 1 to 3 primary colors and then an additional 1 to 3 secondary colors that contrast and complement each other. And a simple Google search will tell you exactly what that means.
Yeah. No,
if
awesome.
you're at a loss, because I didn't know what that meant. So use different tones of the same color for creating consistency by adjusting brightness for contrast. So they either need to contrast or they need to complement each other. Like our denim branding uses variants of navy. And they all go well together. You can see them on here.
Yeah. I love how you all have branded denim. I mean, it's and so I'm assuming for those watching, you guys follow all these principles. And that's why it works. That's why it's so effective.
Yes, we work with some great actual professional graphic designers. Give a shout out to Dina at Thunder Creative. But obviously we don't consult with her for every single thing, or she would be a very, very busy woman. So we do have some base knowledge about graphic design. And at the end of the day, I can tell you what definitely doesn't look good.
Right. Right. Gotcha.
Which brings us to alignment and balance. Also very important when you're creating an image. Overall, a well-composed design is aesthetically pleasing. So lines, shapes, and objects are lined to create flush margins and baselines, forming a stylistic and well-thought-out design. So you'll use horizontal and vertical lines to match with other design elements. And then for balance and proportion, you ensure the thickness of the elements, such as reinforced lines, match the weight of the copy. If you notice on the other graphics where I just have straight lines, they're accenting the text, but they're also the same weight. They're not like super, super thin. They match everything surrounding.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought all that looked good. Now I understand better of why it looks so solid.
Because it's actually balanced and thought out.
Makes all kinds of sense.
And then, so as far as our industry is concerned, we share a lot of imagery, not very text heavy stuff. So my biggest tip for that is do not share just naked images unless you're loading like a photo album, obviously where you wouldn't be using Canva. In the instance of a photo collage, you need to make them align more in a frame or a grid. Makes it look a little more professional than a random collage or combination.
I was going to say, the one on the left to me looks amateur.
It looks like a scrapbook.
Right.
Yeah. So that is my rule of thumb. And of course, Canva provides grid options that makes it easy to create balanced.
I should have known. I love that kind of a tool. Again, I didn't realize Canva had all that functionality. That's great to know.
And it's great because it scales your image to fit correctly, and you can click and drag and make it show what part of the image you really need to show. It might not fit perfectly in the grid. And so this is where you can play with it. And
very cool.
At the very least, it'll be balanced.
Right. Awesome.
And then, so from there, bonus tip, you want to face your images inward. Make a point for image elements to face toward the image rather than away. Notice on the left image, the couple is looking off the graphic, while in the right image, they're looking into the graphic. Same for the kitchen view. In the image on the left, the eye is drawn away from the graphic rather than into it, as shown on the right. So I even changed the guy. He's kind of facing more forward than anybody. But ultimately, you want him looking into the image, because that's where you're pointing your reader.
That's something that I never would have thought about. And now that I'm aware of it, and now that I'm looking at these two samples side by side, what a difference. Again, to me, it looks more professional.
There's a lot more thought that goes into it. And that's why I included some with people and then also the kitchen, because in our industry.
Right. That's what's blowing my mind. I mean, I get the human being looking, oriented towards the image versus away, but I didn't think about doing the same thing with my kitchen. It's an amazing how that changes the whole feel of the imagery.
Even, you make your rooms face inward and it just brings it all together.
Yeah. Fascinating.
So that's
stuff.
like probably my favorite tip. That's why I saved it for the last.
Well, see, now if I was doing the presentation, I wouldn't share that with anyone. I want them to think that I know what I'm doing. But what a difference that makes. Just again, I'm just staring at these two samples, and it makes a dramatic difference. It's fascinating stuff.
And I put the whole presentation together, and then that occurred to me. I was like, well, that's actually, a lot of people don't think about it, and that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves is when I'm like, oh, but why? Just make it face all together. So
I bet you
I digress.
I bet you it's one of those subliminal things again, Mandy, where when you look at something that's not thought through in that way, it probably looks sloppy, or it doesn't work for you, or it doesn't grab you or draw you in. And when it's oriented right, as you're suggesting here, oriented correctly, that's when it works for you. You don't realize why.
Exactly.
But okay, that's fascinating. So
I know I took a lot away from that graphic design class that I had to take.
Yeah, you sure did. And I'm assuming that Canva makes it easier for you to reorient these photos, so that it's easy to kind of to redo the image in Canva.
Yeah. So you'll notice on the image on the left, the check mark is backwards because obviously the original image, I made it so that it faced the right way from the get-go. But you can easily flip-flop and make them flip horizontally to face whatever way you want. So if your collage has all images facing one direction, you can flip them. Just be careful of words or check marks, because obviously I'm not going to put this on social media with a backwards check mark if it were.
Yeah, right. Well, but then you step back and you think about, all right, well, when I have someone photograph a house and they send me 300 pictures of the kitchen, I'm gonna choose the images that I think are going to be oriented right for however I'm going to be utilizing them.
Sure.
And so you can kind of think about that. And when you have a dozen pictures of humans to use, you can select the ones that are going to be oriented the right way, and that helps you. Okay, so that's brilliant stuff. Oh, these have been great tips, Mandy. And I have a shout out to Canva. I've known for a long time that you guys have been a big advocate for that tool, and I've never personally used it, certainly aware of it. I have friends that are big advocates for it.
More people are using it now than ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they actually offer really cool printing services. We don't actually print a lot of collateral. Most of what we do is online. But I've had a lot of people print stuff. I mean, if you want them individually packaged with envelopes, they do that. So if your world needs print, Canva is. And I
thought it was a paid service, so I'm thrilled to hear that there are tiers. There's a free tier and there's a premium version that gives you more tools and then more images, as you said. Good stuff. Well, Mandy, this has been awesome. Thank you for sharing these tips. Before I let you go, I'm assuming someone listening is probably going to have a question or two. So if they need to find you and learn more about your all's work, where do they go?
Yep, just reach out to us at denimmarketing.com. We're on all social media as Denim Marketing, and my contact information is here. And a lot of these tips were pulled straight from canva.com. So if you want to explore more of those, there is the link. I think there were like 30 tips, and I really just picked my top ones and threw in a few of my own.
Awesome. So, all right. Mandy Holm, I'm Todd Schnick. That wraps this episode of The Marketing Thread. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.